Welcome to Stranger Bridgerland Podcast. True stories of the paranormal, ghosts, hauntings, cryptids, glitches, and more.
Hey guys, we're back. We made it back, finally.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back. It's been quite a hiatus, but that's okay. We are planning on doing one every week now that we have everything straightened out and good to go. And big thanks to everybody who has been reaching out and saying, hey, where's your podcast? We miss it. That made us feel good. Made me feel good.
Made us want to get started again.
Yeah, made us want to start again. We've had a lot of fun the last couple weeks. A couple weeks ago, we were in Pocatello. Mm-hmm. Got to meet a lot of you there at Pocatello and sign some books and meet some fun people. And in a month, my new book comes out, which we've been working on all year. Stranger World.
Could be the end of August.
It will be the end of August, okay. But it will be in August.
Well, it's only July 9th.
That's still next month.
You said, well, yes.
Next month.
Next month. I'm still editing, guys.
So you're still editing, and I'm still...
chomping at the bit
to get it from you and working with our illustrator. But we always do this. Every year we do this.
Yeah,
Tell me it's not a crunch the last month.
It is. It is because life gets in the way and we make time for it, but we're crunching at the end. Yeah. We want to get it out.
Yeah, we're excited about getting it out. And so, and I'm really excited about this one. I've interviewed people from all over the world and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I love that it's continued to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and you know what? I'm going to make an announcement while we're on here, too.
Uh-oh.
It's kind of about the next book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So...
I don't even know this.
No, you do. We talked about it.
Oh,
we talked about it.
Okay.
So, it's been getting bigger and bigger every year, and I'm still collecting stories from all over the world. But starting... Not this book will be Stranger World, but then starting after that, we're going to focus on regions/states. So we're going to do a Stranger Utah and a Stranger Idaho and then a Stranger Wyoming. We put one out a year, so I don't think I have 50 more years in me, but who knows? Maybe I do. Maybe we'll live to be... What would that be? Like 140?
I'm going to live to be 100. My grandma's 98.
That's true. So anyway, but yeah, so we're going to focus on states, but of course I'll be still collecting stories from everywhere, and going through. So, but look out for that and look out for some fun things coming we're going to do, and just excited about it.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
It's been an adventure. We were just reminiscing today over the dinner table how it's we can't believe it's, we've been married 8 years and this is book number 7. So we started pretty quick after we got married and it's been one a year. Yeah. Yep.
You were the catalyst to finally get the book out, and then it was just like when you pull the plug out and now it's all coming out. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
But it's been good to do about one a year. It's been nice, but
yeah.
Well,
it's truly grown because people have seen your stories and responded to your emails in the book, your email address in the book, and it's just continued to get bigger. So it's just really exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it, and I love that people have been very generous with with the reviews, and then we've met some great people. Through all of this, we've met some really great people. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So.
Yep.
I want to get into this. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's, so when I talk about the paranormal and everything like that, I kind of encompass everything. We talk about UFOs, we talk about ghosts, we talk about all kinds of things like that. Well, one of the things that I love that isn't necessarily paranormal, but yet kind of is at the same time, is it's conspiracy theories.
Okay.
Okay. And I've got a really good one for you today. It's one that I've studied over time and read about a lot. And it's really fascinating to me. So have you heard, Annie's coming in cold to this, so she can react. But have you heard anything about the Denver airport?
I have not.
Have you ever been to the Denver airport in all your travels?
A ton.
Have you?
For work. Yeah,
Oh,
I used to go there. It was a hub. I used to travel out of there a lot.
So back in the early 90s, mid-90s, I guess, early mid-90s, Denver said, we want a new airport. Because the one they had was in town, and it was really kind of trafficky. But they had just... Some of the things that weirded people out was the fact that they had just expanded the airport, just barely renovated it, and now they're like, we want to build a new airport. So that was a little weird to begin with. The second thing is they bought land outside of town, because of course you don't want it in town, and you need space. But they bought 53 square miles outside of Denver to build this airport.
That's a lot.
That is a huge amount. And when it got started and started going, and it's way outside of town, some things started happening with the airport that made people really wonder what was going on. First of all, like I said, it was 53 square miles. At the time, they estimated it to cost $2 billion, which with inflation, that was a ton in the 90s. Like, a billion is a ton now. Like, if you want to give me $1 billion, I'll be okay with that. That's a lot of money. I can live on that. But it ended up being more than double. It ended up being $4.8 billion. So it was over $2.8 billion that they couldn't necessarily account for why it went over that much money, which was strange too. The way they built it was really strange. They didn't have a general contractor over the entire thing that anybody could find.
Really?
Yes. So what they did, and whoever was in charge, they would hire a company to do one little thing, and that was it. And so nobody knew everything that was going on at the construction at the airport. Another thing that happened that's really, really weird. They took about 100 times more earth out of there than would have needed to be for the footprint. You know, when you're digging out foundations, when you're doing all this stuff, they figured there was about 100 times more dirt came out of there than what was needed. So that started this big conspiracy theory that it has that it's an underground base.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was part of it. They're like, oh, it's an underground base. And some of the contractors even said that it's kind of been, no pun intended, covered up now. But apparently there were 5 buildings that were built on the site that were just covered up with dirt. And they said, oh, those were in the wrong place. So they covered them up with dirt, and supposedly they're not there, but they're underground, which was really strange.
Somebody's lying.
Somebody's lying. For a long time, there was a shortage on fiber optic cable because they purchased 5,300 miles worth of fiber optic cable that went into that building. That's enough to go from LA to New York and back to LA. That's enough fiber optic cable. And they're like, well, where is this going to? Why is there so much? They also built a lot of underground stuff. Like, supposedly there is at least 6 stories worth of buildings underneath the ground. But some of the people that worked on it said, no, there's more like 8 to 10 stories underneath the ground, including all of this. They built this underground passage that they were going to do all of the luggage underground. They're like, we got this system. It'll travel all underground to the plains. It'll travel, all of this. So they built and made all these tunnels, and then they said, oh, that's not going to work. And they just forgot. They're like, they went back to normal, but now there's all these tunnels underground. So people were really talking back then. So this was right after you and I are out of high school. So it's like a couple of years ago. This is in the 90s. But it gets stranger. Like the further along, it's normal for a huge facility like this to fall behind in schedule. But it ended up falling something like 3 years behind construction than what it was supposed to.
So when you're saying that it's finished now? Like
it's finished now.
Finished?
Yeah, it's finished now, but it took 3 years longer and $2 billion more than what it was. And what was really funny is when it went over budget, the government was like, which the government helped build this. It's not it's a commercial or it's international airport, so it was built kind of by the government.
Isn't that weird? The government builds
airports. Yeah, built this airport. And that was the other thing is they're like, somebody was like, oh, it's $2,000 or $2 billion over. And the government's like, that's okay, here, take this. Because they were working on it. So there's all these conspiracy theories dealing with what's really going on.
So the airport's in use. There's two airports in Denver?
No, just one now. They closed down the other one when they opened the one. They closed down the one in the city and opened this one. So once it opened, it got even stranger. So when you drive into the Denver airport, the first thing that meets you is a huge statue of a blue horse that is a zombie horse. It's got weird veins going through it. It has red glowing eyes, and it is a pale blue horse, and it looks like a zombie horse. It's really weird.
Isn't there a sports team there?
Yeah, the Denver Broncos, but that's not. It doesn't look like the Denver Broncos Bronco.
Oh.
It looks like a zombie horse. Many people have called it the horse of the apocalypse or something like that. It's really weird.
Huh.
But so that's the first thing that meets you when you go in there. Then when you went into the airport when it was first opened, it gets really weird from there too. Annie's actually looking at a picture of the horse now, so she can see exactly what I'm talking about. Look it up. You want to look at the horse. If you haven't seen it, the horse.
It's got like red or brown veins and red eyes.
And it looks like.
Yeah, that's weird.
They thought it was symbolism for one of the horses of the apocalypse, and that will make more sense if you look at what happens inside. So first of all, you go into the baggage claim, and it was surrounded by statues of gargoyles coming out of suitcases.
What?
Yeah, this is what was around the building or around luggage, where you picked up your luggage, were gargoyles coming out of Samsonite suitcases. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. It even gets weirder, believe it or not.
I've only transferred in and out of there. I can't believe that I haven't seen this.
Right. So, it's just on pillars. It has pictures of them. Now, the murals, you've been in a lot of different airports, right? And they have murals, like paintings, big paintings all over at these airports. Well, Denver's went super weird. Theirs are apocalyptic.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now. And I have seen that weird mural.
You've seen that weird mural. It's very apocalyptic. All of them were, of children dying, of a guy with a scimitar, very reminiscent of a Nazi.
He's wearing a gas mask?
Yeah, he's wearing a gas mask. And he's killing the dove of peace with the sword.
Standing on broken buildings.
And there's just rows of children crying and dying around him. If you look on one side, there's a woman holding a baby that's dead.
There's a rainbow above him, though.
But there's a rainbow above him, right? It's really weird.
Is that supposed to make it okay?
I don't know. But there's pictures like this all the way through of children put in chains. Super strange things.
Well, it says here, the Denver International Airport installed a talking animatronic gargoyle that pokes fun at the Illuminati conspiracies.
Right.
And it's animatronic.
So instead of, I was going to talk about that too.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. We can talk about it now. They put this talking gargoyle in there to kind of poke fun at it rather than actually answer the questions about what's going on, because there's so many people that have questions about what the crap is going on with the Denver airport. And a lot of their explanations for it are, well, this is just this artist's interpretation of peace, or it
doesn't look like peace at all.
Weird, I don't know. It's really weird. Yeah. But in the main area of it, I can't remember where it is exactly, is the capstone. So it's tradition in some buildings to put a capstone. Okay. This one was put in by the Freemasons. Okay. But the weird thing about it is it was put in by the Freemasons, but the capstone, the date on the capstone is not the opening. Was not the opening date.
Is it like a future date?
No, it's not a future date. But what's really funny is nobody can figure out why they put that date on there, because that's not when it was finished. That's not when it was opened. That's not when the construction started. It was just kind of a random date. But they found out if you add up the numbers for that date, it comes to the Illuminati, or the Masons' main number, which is... oh gosh, I lost it. 1 second. Anyway, if you add up those numbers, it comes to 32, which is the degrees in Masonry. It's like a really big number for the Masons. But what's even stranger is underneath that, it says that the building was dedicated and produced by a company that is called... I have it here. So, on this plaque, the building was commissioned by the New World Airport Commission. You know what's really strange about that? There's no such thing. That company, that thing, doesn't exist. There's no such thing, at least according to anything that you can find, that the New World Airport Commission doesn't exist.
Y'all can't see me, but I'm shaking my head. It just doesn't make... I'm looking at some of the pictures that he's describing.
Yeah, some of the weird things that goes on. So, with all of that, right... Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, it's not already?
No, it's interesting, but it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
In the United States, the United States government and military, military have 3 official underground bases. Okay. The first official underground base is actually in Colorado, and it's called Cheyenne Mountain. Okay. If you've ever seen the movie War Games, do you remember War Games? You don't remember War Games?
I don't. You know me in movies. I'm like the best movie watcher ever. I always forget.
This is from the 80s with Matthew Broderick, when they War Games, where he plays war with the computer, and then the computer decides that it's real and wants to take over the world.
Okay.
Or blow up the world.
Yeah, I kind of remember that, yeah.
Okay. We'll have to watch it again. That's a good movie. No, that happens in Cheyenne Mountain. So that's one. The other one is called Blue Ridge. It's in Blue Ridge. Let's see. There's a FEMA camp. Sorry. There's a FEMA camp that's underground, and it's in Blue Ridge, Virginia. Okay, that's all underground.
Okay.
And the third one is the Raven Rock Mountain Center. and that's in Pennsylvania. Okay, so these are the 3 official underground bases for the United States.
Okay.
Okay, there is supposedly stories about a whole bunch of other ones out there, including Denver's airport. Now, back in 2011, okay, NASA spotted a comet. Okay, it was Ellen kind of is what they called it.
Okay.
Comet Ellen. When they found it, they thought it was going to hit the United States. They thought it was going to hit Earth, and it was a big one. Like, they honestly thought this could be the planet killer or whatever. Okay? So, to be safe, they were trying to do the calculations, but to be safe, they sent the president and everybody to underground bunkers. That's what they're supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. So, but they sent President Obama, but you know what? They didn't send him to one of the known bunkers. Air Force One flew into Denver International Airport, and he disappeared underneath Denver International Airport.
Wow.
So that's a big sign that there is an underground base, that this is literally built on top of it. Now, there's a lot of people that are like, you couldn't build that without people knowing and blah, 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 blah. Well, there's a hotel in Washington, D.C. that's been there forever, like forever, ever. And unbeknownst to us, during the 70s and 80s, that was an underground place to hold all of Congress. It would hold the president or vice president, whoever was in town. There was enough to hold something like 5,000 people for 2 years underneath this hotel. The people that worked at the hotel didn't know it was there, and you had to go through the hotel to get there. All of the people didn't know it was there. They didn't know it had been built there. They didn't know it was there when they worked there, anything like that. And that was like 20 years that it was a secret, and it was huge, and it was right there underneath there. And they did it all under the nose of everybody. So, yeah, of course, they could actually build something huge in Denver when they're building this airport and everything like that.
The outskirts of the city.
Right. It's very easily, because they did it before. Not quite at that big of a scale, but this is a huge scale. Well, now, you go forward in the 90s, and there was a gentleman named Phil Snyder. Now, for anybody that knows UFOs or anything like that, may recognize the name Phil Snyder. He had a lot of conspiracies and everything like that. He actually was a contractor for the government, and who worked on the Denver International Airport and several others. He said he was key to building these underground bases. Okay. Now, there was a few things that I believe that it's been proven that he kind of exaggerated some stuff. But do you discount everything he said because of that? There was some stuff that he could prove. He said, for example, he was convinced that there was actually an underground alien base, that the government's working with the aliens, and they gave them that base, and that, in fact, all of the bases are connected. So he went on the circuit to, talk about this, talk about his beliefs, what he saw supposedly as a contractor, and he told everybody, he's like, if I go missing or if I die, I am not suicidal, blah, 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 blah. Well, sure enough, he showed up. He unalived himself, but everybody says he really didn't unalive himself, but that he got killed for spilling the beans on that. So the theory goes, or the conspiracy theory goes, that there is an underground base under Denver Airport that's actually connected to the mountain right there, the mountain we talked about, Cheyenne Mountain, that is connected to Cheyenne Mountain, because they said the amount of dirt that they pull out from underneath it would be almost the right amount to dig from there to Cheyenne Mountain as well, to make, and so and then it gets really deep into, world control and population control and making, a one world government. It gets really kind of weird from there on in. Not that it hasn't been weird already, but, and then into aliens and UFOs. And out here in Utah, we live in Utah. And after one of the theories that goes along with this is that after Area 51 got so popular and people were watching it, that they moved it to underground base here in Utah. It's out in the West Desert, kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's part of the military base out there where they also get rid of chemical weapons and stuff. The Tooele Army Depot and all of that. Supposedly that's all underground there as well. And if you remember my last book, I had an interview with a gentleman who was in the West Desert, and him and his buddy were cave explorers and did actually run into one of these supposed lizard men things that are...
That was a weird story.
That was a weird story, but he was very adamant about that. And he's not alone. Like, what's funny is it's all about underground, the underground bases. And, there's people who claim to have seen these lizard aliens, whatever they are, in the West Desert and all the way into LA. Like, underground LA is supposed to be part of a base, or at least part of connected. And so it's all really strange. Really strange. It's kind of a cool conspiracy theory. Now, do I necessarily believe all of the conspiracy theory? No, maybe not. There's no proof of a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And I love conspiracy theories, but I'm not necessarily going to bite into every one of them. Flat Earth or, things like that. But I just find there's a lot of things about this one that, it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of fascinating. But this is what's cool, because some of the biggest things that people will say to disprove theories, conspiracy theories. They'll say, 1, the government wouldn't do something like that. They'll say, 2, you couldn't hide something that big. Somebody would talk. And, conspiracy theories aren't real, right?
Yeah.
So, along with the paranormal, I've spent years studying conspiracy theories just because I think they're fun, and they could be true. So I've got a list here, and I'm going to go through some conspiracy theories that were super crazy that turned out to be true.
Oh, really?
Yes. And there's some of them I don't know if you've ever heard before. I've heard them because I study conspiracy theories along with all the paranormal and stuff.
Yeah.
So, for the longest time in the 50s, okay, there was a conspiracy theory out there that the government was stealing dead bodies, in particular, dead children's bodies.
What?
Yep, it was a conspiracy theory going around because of Men in Black kind of things that were stealing bodies. It was from hospitals, okay? And everybody said, that's crazy. The government wouldn't do that. That's weird. Somebody would have seen something, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to, I believe, the 90s or 2000s when it was finally declassified. The government was indeed stealing dead children and dead babies because they needed fresh cells, like fresh body parts, especially from children, because they were testing how radiation affected children's skin.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. After they bombed Hiroshima and stuff like that, and they wanted to study how it affected cells, they needed freshly dead. So they figured anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 dead babies were stolen from hospitals, from the parents who never got to bury them, or young children, because the government had to have fresh and rush it to the thing so that they could test on radioactive isotopes and the effect of nuclear weapons on skin.
That's icky.
Yeah, that's icky, but it ended up being true. Isn't that funny? So, I mean, funny in a Not a ha-ha kind of way. Funny as in a weird, that's weird. But yeah, they were stealing. Somewhere around 2,000 children, dead babies were stolen from hospitals.
Oh, my word.
Okay, so the next one. Could you imagine that a president, well, actually, we might be able to imagine that right now, that a president of the United States became incapacitated?
Sorry.
It's kind of funny. Became incapacitated and his wife ran the country for an entire year. That's the theory, right? Like I said, this one's a little bit easier to believe, right? President Woodrow Wilson, he was the president during World War I, had a stroke while in the White House. He became incapacitated for an entire year. But his wife and his staff, rather than having, which is supposed to happen, the vice president is supposed to take over when the president's, they hid him in his room, saying he wasn't feeling good, whatever. And his wife and his staff ran the country and ran the White House for an entire year.
Doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't. Like I said, that one's a little bit easier to believe right now, but we won't say why, but... Yeah, but that was the conspiracy theory they said, but it wasn't until years later that it finally came out. She admitted and the staff admitted, like, in everything, that she was president for a year. And so we can actually say we've had a woman president for a year.
Incognito.
His wife. Yep, incognito. Another one. So this one, I'm sure, I don't know if you've heard or not, but a lot of people have. There was a conspiracy theory that the CIA and the government was testing mind control, right? They were trying to learn how to control people's minds, how to, use drugs and all of this stuff to try and control people's minds. Now we would be like, well, yeah, of course, the CIA, everybody does things that are really bad. But back then, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, it was a conspiracy theory. Well, sure enough, when... all the paperwork from what was called MK Ultra came out, the CIA, the government, were using LSD and other mind control drugs to try and figure out a way to make people so placid or so confused or whatever that they would do whatever, including assassinate people, right? It was so bad that at a party thrown by the CIA, they drugged a guy to see what would happen with LSD, and he became so confused he jumped out of a 30-story window and fell to his death.
Wasn't there a movie about this?
Could be. Very well could be.
Seems like there was a movie.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Back to, if people tell you your government wouldn't do that, that's not true. Your government would do that.
Oh my gosh.
And and that went on for a long time. There's actually a lot of things in the CIA that they've done that were really, bad, and that are just now coming out. I can't wait until they finally release everything on JFK, because I'm convinced, and you and I have talked about this, that it was Lyndon B. Johnson and the CIA that had Kennedy assassinated. But again, that's just right now a conspiracy theory. So the last one, which is a big one. Have you ever heard of a false flag? Do you know what a false flag event is?
No, other than sports.
Yeah. So a false flag is when a government either implicates or does something or flat out lies about an attack. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Some people have said that 9/11 might have been a false flag, which I'm not going to get into that because that's really deep. Where you want, as a president or as a government, you want to invade a country, but you can't just invade a country, because that's not what we do. So you create an event that makes it look like that country did something, and then it gives you the right to go attack them, right? Something that you would think our country would never do, right?
Yeah.
Not true. So the Gulf of Tonga, right? The Gulf of Tonkin, in August 2nd, 1964, the Americans announced that the USS Maddox was attacked by North Vietnamese troops. Okay? Mm-hmm. Went all over the news, everything. We were attacked by North Vietnam, by the communists, everything. And that got everybody to back them to go into the Vietnam War. Okay? It wasn't until much later that that it finally came out and everything. That was not true. It didn't happen. It was a lie. And they used that false flag to attack and got us into the Vietnam War, which ended up being just a cluster, all the way through. So yeah, those are just 4, and you can go deep and deeper and deeper and deeper into them. There's one where the government wanted to test different diseases, and so they went into poor black South cities in the South and just gave everybody the disease to see how it would go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was terrible. So that's kind of my thing. As for me, I do think there is something going on with the Denver airport. Definitely could be one of those same kind of bases where people, the important people, I'm doing that in air quotes, important people would have somewhere to go in case of an emergency, like a meteor or something like that. Us normal people aren't going to be allowed there, but that's kind of the thought. That there's a lot more than that. It's such a
central hub.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of flights go in and out of that airport. It's one of my favorite airports, but it's weird to see those. The mural. I hadn't seen the rest of the things until I looked it up while we were talking, it's weird that there's so much traffic in and out of there, but yet there could be something like that underneath.
There's a lot of times the best place to hide something is right in front of everybody's eyes. And the other thing too, like you mentioned that gargoyle, they make light of it. They put that gargoyle out that makes jokes about it being a secret base and all of this. And it's kind of like, it's a very interesting way of attacking it rather than just denying everything. You're just laughing and making fun of everybody who believes in the theory. And that's the thing, is the biggest thing of disinformation is making people who are on the right track look crazy. You know what I mean?
How would you like to be the strategist that came up with that?
Well,
in the government, hey, let's just tell them it's there. Let's make jokes so that people think that they're crazy.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing is, and that's gone on a lot, especially too with UFOs. If you study UFOs and stuff like that, the government in the past has made individuals, they fed them false information, about aliens and everything like that, so that when they come out, they look crazy. They look crazy. Mm-hmm. But in fact, there is something there. It's just not what they've shown you. I know it sounds really weird, but it's kind of a sleight of hand thing.
Yeah.
And they use people who are interested in UFOs or interested in conspiracy theories to make everybody look crazy. Annie and I, and this is going to be a little off topic, Annie and I went and saw that movie, Sound of Freedom. Mm-hmm. That one is called. And it's very compelling, and it's about child trafficking, which is a problem.
Yeah.
Even the numbers say that it's a problem.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting is how many mainstream media outlets are calling it propaganda, and they're saying it's not true, and it's a conspiracy theory, and it's not as bad as everybody thinks, and I went in kind of open-minded, thinking, well, we'll see what it's about, and doing the study on how many kids go missing and everything like that, and I just don't understand why you would want to discredit it if they're trying to save kids. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Just the whole thing, I'm kind of like from an outside in looking kind of perspective, where we went and saw the movie. It is very compelling. It's hard to watch. It is really hard to watch at times. There was a couple that walked out in front of us, and I totally understood why, because it's such a hard thing to understand. And yeah, child trafficking happens. I believe it happens, you know. But to have some companies or some news articles call them conspiracy theorists for it, and when they're literally trying to save kids' lives, I just don't understand where that's coming from. And that's what confuses me, is that why that should not be a left or right wing thing. Saving children shouldn't be a political thing.
Even if there were exaggerations made, which we don't know, I don't have any tap on how many numbers of people this is happening to and how many kids this is happening to.
Right.
But if the effort is for a good cause, then why would anybody ever point the finger the other way and say it's a conspiracy?
Right. That doesn't make any sense to me. And it raises red flags in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It raises red flags in my mind if a paper is attacking them for just trying to bring awareness to child trafficking, and they want to belittle that. That just raises a red flag. That's all I'm going to say. Speaking of conspiracy theories, so.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't a rabbit hole. This is a rabbit crater you could fall into.
Well, any of these really is.
Oh yeah, but and that was kind of why I wanted to bring up the Denver airport one, because it's a conspiracy theory that I guess you could call it fun, because it's weird and it's strange and it's got weird things pointing everywhere, and you're not really sure what you're looking at, but you know there's something weird going on, and so. But
John thinks they're fun, but me, I'm like, I don't believe a lot of what my government tells me.
Well, I don't.
So there you go. Like,
no, you can't believe the government. I mean, that's terrible to say. And I'm not like this. We're not wild, kooky, weird people
You can't believe your neighbor nowadays.
Oh,
I mean, everybody's just framing things to look good for themselves, and the government's no different. You know, they do a lot of things that we have no idea about in the name of, you know, keeping everybody sane and peaceful. And
that's the thing, is that this world is not sane. And again, I'm not coming at it from, you know, right, left, up, down, whatever. I'm just saying, you know, what I have learned and what I see, and
you may get a lot of comments on this podcast.
I might. That would be fun, like, to get some comments. Maybe people will call me
again.
A
John
white
finds it fun.
extremist. When honestly, I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, I really don't. I don't like affiliate with anybody anymore, because I think everybody's just full of crap. I'm on my own. But
associates with me.
I'm announcing my run for president right here. No, I'm not. That's funny. No, but I hope it didn't get too. It didn't mean to get political. We're not getting political, but
that wasn't the intent.
No, that was not the intent. But I'm just saying, it's if you think the government hasn't, you know, told you some lies, then you do some reading. You'll get some.
Well, if you haven't checked out pictures of the Colorado airport, you should do that at some point in the near future, because the murals themselves, or the gargoyles, I don't think I even realized the gargoyles were there.
Right.
Holy cow. And
right.
The horse.
The horse is really weird. Oh, and this is one last kind of piece about this. The horse killed the guy who sculpted it. When he was finishing it up, a piece fell off, because it's a big piece of metal. Piece fell off, hit him in the leg, cut an artery, and before they get him to the hospital, he died.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with conspiracy, but that's an actual fact, that apocalyptic zombie horse has literally killed somebody, like the guy that made it.
So go look at it online, but don't visit it.
Don't visit it. It's already got blood on its hands.
Well, I didn't even search for zombie horse. I just searched for Denver Bronco statue, or Denver Airport Bronco statue, and it came up with a picture of it at night with the red eyes.
Which is really ironic, because the Denver Broncos have been very, very sickly for a long time. So maybe that's why it's a zombie horse.
Now you're going to get sport opinions.
Now we're going to get sport opinions.
Maybe we should end while
we're ahead. Everybody's going to be like, oh, I'm so glad you're back. Oh, I wish they'd never done that. That was bad. No, I am going to kind of tease the next one, which we'll have next week. there has been, in the last year since we've been off, a ton of UFO things.
Yeah.
A ton. We're getting close to what I believe is disclosure. And we're going to get into that. The things that have happened in the last year with UFOs. Didn't they have a
disclosure?
No, not officially. I mean, they're leaking it, and we're coming close to official disclosure. But they're leaking little bits at a time so that we can all be like, oh, that's so cool, but I need to go shopping. You know what I mean? People are still doing their own thing.
By the time they actually disclose, we're going to be like,
nah, we don't care. There's aliens? That's so cool. I'm going to Walmart. That's kind of been the whole feeling of all of it. But we're going to get into it, a lot of it, because there's a lot to unpack on that one. So that'll be our next one. So
okay.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. If you like the podcast, please like, subscribe, shout out. We take cash. No, I'm just kidding. But
John takes
I
comments.
take comments. If you're a Denver Broncos fan, let me hear you. Anyway, yeah, so I am, as always, John Olson.
And Annie.
And with me is the lovely Annie. So thank you guys so much and have a great night.
Bye.
If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make podcasts with everything you need in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. It's everything you need to make podcasts in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
Thank you for joining us in the world of the paranormal. For more stories, visit strangerbridgerland.com.